Welcome to Here Where You Belong, your go-to podcast for exploring belonging with your host and belonging expert, Dia Irby. We are thrilled to have you join us. Together, we'll dive into the depths of what it means for each of us to find our own place in the world, whether it's within our communities, our relationships, or within ourselves. Today's episode is meant to inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. So, grab a cozy spot and settle in. Welcome to Here Where You Belong.
Hello, awesome belongers. Welcome home to Here Where You Belong podcast. Today's guest is a man whose life story is both rugged and redemptive. I'm Dia, your host. Get ready to be inspired and blessed. Our guest today is Rand Timmerman. Hey, Rand, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Butte.
Well, let me tell you a little bit more about our guest. Rand Timmerman is a retired attorney, a U.S. Marine Corps Vietnam combat vet. Thank you for your service. And a recovered alcoholic who spent years battling addiction before finding lasting sobriety through a deep spiritual awakening. At age 72, here's a challenge out there for all you older listeners. 72, Rand set out on an extraordinary challenge, hiking the entire 2,200-mile Appalachian Trail with his younger brother, so younger, he was 71, also a Vietnam combat veteran. Their journey captured in Rand's book, take note, he has a book, A Spiritual Passage, blends 500 vivid photographs with honest reflections on the physical, emotional, and spiritual tests they faced, including Rand's own path to sobriety and Ron's grief after the loss of his wife. Rand now devotes himself to daily service and recovery programs, coaching men who are seeking freedom from addiction. His story of perseverance, faith, and belonging offers hope to anyone navigating life's steepest climbs. Rand, any additions, subtractions, or corrections?
Beautiful summary, thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. Well, as you know, this is Here Where You Belong. And I have you here because I believe that you have some inspiring stories to tell about your belonging story. So the mic is yours. I may ask you a question to clarify, but keep going.
All right, thank you so much. So maybe a 72-year-old man does not belong on that 2,200-mile trail that goes up and down 500 million feet of elevation changes and over 600 mountains. And just picture yourself, you're 72 years old, you're hiking on that trail, and all of a sudden you see a rattlesnake right in front of you, right? And I always try to deal with those and get them off the trail because a lot of the hikers are way younger than us, all of them, literally. And some of them like to partake in the afternoons of illicit substances. And so you find them walking on the trail and the next day with eyes like moons and earplugs in so they can't hear anything. And I was worried about those folks. So anytime I saw a dangerous animal, I would try to make sure it got off the trail before somebody came along. And this huge rattler was laying on the trail. Normally 999 times out of 1,000, it's just going to go away, right?
Right.
This one didn't. It coiled on me.
Oh, no.
And I'm trying to poke it with my hiking stick. And I realize this is a little different situation. And all of a sudden I look down and I realize there's a chipmunk laying by my foot with 2 spots of blood on it.
Oh, no.
And that rattler is not leaving because that's dinner or lunch or what, right?
Right.
I crouched down and got a hold of the chipmunk by the tail and I shook it. And I'm looking right at the rattler. He's looking right at me. And I threw it as hard as I could right over his head and into the forest. And of course he whirled and went. And I was just unbelievable how fast you could not shoot an arrow as fast as that snake went. I'm like, if he wanted to bite me, there would have been nothing I could do. But yeah, so a life of service is something that I haven't been engaged in. My brother and I, Ron, we're both combat veterans, grew up in a very poor village. Our father was paralyzed with polio from the waist down.
Oh,
His whole adult life, we were very, very poor. I got into scouting. Ron actually got into the church. He was always a spiritual person. I thought God was punishing us. I had a really bad attitude. And then we both went to war. And then when I got into the war, I was convinced there couldn't possibly be a higher power. It made no sense to me at all. And
interesting.
we
Yeah.
came back. My brother, when he came back, our mother's best friend was Edie. She's 14 years older than Ronnie. She's divorced with 7 kids. And the next thing I know, they're carooming around in a convertible, going line dancing. And my brother is madly in love, and he marries her. They move out to Utah. They get very involved in the Mormon church. Edie's 7 kids produce 27 grandchildren and 27 great grandchildren. And then Edie has a stroke in 2011. It was bad. And then
Mm.
she had a bunch of mini strokes.
Oh,
It
no.
got worse. It never got better. And Ron would not let anyone else take care of her. He took care of her for 6 years. And when she passed, he thought he was going to be okay. He'd been a bishop in the Mormon church. He'd done a lot of funerals, a lot of weddings, all kinds of things, services. Me, I was the Antichrist. I had an affliction for alcohol. I had an allergy to it, but I also had an appetite for it for a while, and it really got out of control. And then I did finally, I had a great career as an attorney. That was an amazing thing that happened because when I came back from
What
Vietnam,
kind of law did you practice?
I was a litigator. The funny part is, when I came back from Vietnam, well, when I came back from Vietnam, they had made me a temporary lieutenant. And so I had the option of either going back to being a corporal, which is an enlisted man, or they said you can go to become a real officer, go to officer candidate school. So I did all that, and then I decided to go in the air wing because I don't want to be in the infantry anymore. And when I got there, I had a guardian angel, and he asked me, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't know." And he says, "Well, I got this school in Rhode Island." And I said, "I've never been to Rhode Island." And he said, "What is it?" And he says, "It's JAG school, Judge Advocate General School." So I went over there with 99 real lawyers who had college degrees and law degrees, and I decided to work at it. I ended up being the class honor man. So the point of it, and then when I came back, I ended up, being a legal officer, defending people, and then I ended up being a prosecutor, and it gave me my life profession something I could really get into. And I loved it because it's really service work. I mean, that's what lawyers do, right? We're trying to help people, and we get paid for it. How could it be any better than
Oh,
that?
fancy that.
Yeah. So, but I was really worried about Ronnie when after Edie died, and I went out. I had never been out to his home in 40 years. I'd never been there actually, and so I went and saw him, and we were walking in the desert. We were both in good shape. I ran 26 marathons. I did a whole bunch of cross country ski races. Ronnie had always been real active, so we're both active guys. The
Yeah.
A part of you
Yes,
say,
very.
right? So we kind of had a good base between the two of us, and I said, "What are you going to do?" And he said, "I'm gonna get on a bus, go to Springer Mountain in Georgia, and start walking the Appalachian Trail." And I had walked parts of the Appalachian Trail. I knew how hard it was. I said, "That's crazy." And I said, "When are you going to start?" This is in January of 2018. He says, "March 22nd." So on March 22nd, in a snowstorm, there's a picture in the book of all the days. Pretty much, there's pictures about every day and where we were and where we went. In the very beginning, there's a picture of my brother standing inside of like a little barn or a shed, and it's all covered with snow. And you're looking at his face, and you can just see, what have I got myself into? But we did it. We did it. It was
How
amazing.
long did it take?
Altogether, it took us 3 years. We hiked from March until August of 2018. We were in New Jersey. We had done almost 1,500 miles. And it was one of those days, it was 100 degrees. I mean, we averaged 11 miles a day. We would hike from 7 in the morning until usually 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So this is a
And what did
really
you do?
grueling,
Collapse?
yeah.
That's,
And this day I had no idea what was going to happen. I came out, he always came out before I did. And I have an artificial knee, and my right leg is half inch shorter than the left, so I limped. I like to brag, I'm the limpiest man that ever hiked the Appalachian Trail. And I came out one
so,
day. It was
listeners, you have no excuse.
That's right. There's 100 degrees, 100% humidity. I walk out, my brother's standing. He hasn't unpacked or anything, and he's standing there with his hands on his hips. What's going on, bro? He says, "You want to go home?" I said, sure. We both lost like 35 pounds. We look like Auschwitz survivors at this point, right?
Yes.
So then the next year he said, you want to try to finish it? And I said, sure. And so we went back. I fell down a rock slide on Wilcox Mountain, Massachusetts, and really got hurt really, really bad. And so we went off for a month, and then we went back. We got into the Whites, and we did north and south of Washington Mountain, which is the highest mountain in North America. It's the one where the highest recorded wind speed of 249 miles per hour. And it snows there every month of the year. So when we got there, it was actually closed. We had to go around it and come back. And then, but I was in incredible pain. I had really done serious damage. And so we were getting ready to do Washington, and we hiked in about a mile and with full packs. And I stopped. I just started crying. I can't do this anymore. I couldn't. My pain was 8, 9. I couldn't sleep at night. So Ronnie finished it up the next year with his son all the way to Katahdin Mountain. And there are pictures of what they did finish. I only did 1,863 miles.
Oh, you slacker.
So, and then while they were doing that, I was having my hip replaced. So,
Okay. You did do some damage.
oh yeah, I did serious damage.
So I've known people that have walked the Appalachian, maybe just parts of it, but there's a whole lot of preparation. Like you have to plan ahead and then have meals delivered to where you're going to end up, and you stay in these little
Shelters, some places they do.
shelters along
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an amazing experience. Most of the people were much younger than us. In the beginning, probably more than half of the hikers were women. There were a lot of very tough ladies out there. One was a mother with 4 children. The youngest was 6. I was thinking you had to call social services for child abuse, but
She had them hiking with her.
yes. Oh, it's amazing. I could tell you stories for hours. The people are amazing. I hiked the Appalachian Trail like it was. I kept telling me, I'll never step here again. One step at a time,
Yes.
I'll never step here again. Ronnie was marching. There were days when he took no pictures. I took 5,000 pictures. My mindset was, this is not about hiking the whole distance for me. This is about enjoying as much as I can what I see on a moment to moment. There was days I'd go around the corner and go, oh, look at that. And I would have 50 pictures by the end. I mean,
like landscape pictures, or did you, it was, what were the
vistas, all kind of vistas, up and down the mountains. In Virginia is just gorgeous, the Shenandoah National Park,
Oh,
the Blue Ridge
yes.
Mountains. I mean, and then, it's funny, we got into New Jersey, we went across the Hudson River, and I was thinking, well, maybe the mountains will be a little smaller here, right? And then, oh my God, I can't even remember the name of the next one, but I got up the top. I was like, oh my God, these are as bad as any we've been on, right? And then I'm standing there the next morning getting to go on, and I realize I'm in New Jersey. What is there? 26 million people in this little state, right? And I'm on top of a mountain, and I'm by myself, nobody's up yet, and all I can see is wilderness. And I'm like, oh my God, God is so much bigger than I ever imagined. And I'm looking, and the raptors are flying around. I cannot hear. There's 26 million people right at my feet, basically. I don't hear a sound. There's no contrails in the sky. It was like I was the only man on this planet that hasn't even, been taken over by humanity yet. And then finally, I realized I can see just the very top of the skyscrapers of New York City.
Wow.
And I'm like,
And you have pictures. You've got proof.
yes, yeah, I got proof. Yeah.
Well,
So
you named your book Spiritual Passage,
that's correct.
and you just mentioned you didn't realize how big God was. So how did that title, is that part of what made you title your book that?
Yes, Ronnie was dealing with his grief. He had a couple of spiritual experiences while we were hiking. One day in particular, Father's Day in 2018. It was a very dark day, and he had written in his journal, it's so dark we should have flashlights in the middle of the day. And he was really kind of, his grief was overwhelming at times, and he was having a really bad day. And he walked around a corner, and there was this very vivid light. And it was like the only ray of sunshine that managed to get through the clouds that day. That's probably what it had to be. There's a picture, and my brother took a picture of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can see this huge like halo of light, and then in the middle, there's some kind of a figure. If you're a Christian, it might have been Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha. I don't know, but it was it
Right.
was, and my brother could hear Edie saying, "I'm giving you this gift, so that you're going to be all right, right?" And it changed it for him. And then,
Absolutely. How could it not?
yeah. And then I had a very vivid one on the trail in the Smoky Mountains south of Clingman's Dome before you get to Fontana. The trail there is very, very narrow. It's only like 20 feet, and it drops down thousands of feet on both sides. And I got caught there at dusk, and I pitched my tent on the trail. And then these huge winds came up during the night from the south because the valley was like a V. So the winds were forced into this funnel, and then they would come right up at me. And I mean, it sounded like freight trains. It felt like I was on a railroad track. Freight trains are coming right at me. And the tent, my brother said, "Will you hang on to the rods?" Because there was two metal rods that held it up. It's a mountain tent. It's made for high winds and stuff like that, right?
I
And I said, "No." I was pushing down on the stakes as hard as I could because I was in a body bag. If that
oh,
tent ripped off the mountain, I was gone. And the
wow.
tent was going like this on my back. It was
No.
like an accordion, only it was whacking me 10 times a second. It was unbelievable. And I'm like, "Okay, big guy, if this is it for me, okay, I accept that, God. I mean, I've been sober now 4 years. I've been helping a lot of men. I kind of like to stick around for a while.
Yeah.
I'm having all these thoughts in terror in the middle and pitch dark, and all this is going on, and then finally, just before daybreak, it stopped. Slowly, it ebbed. And then I got out of the tent as soon as it got light. And every day, guys would call me that I had been helping. They would just like check in on me. Yeah, I stayed sober or whatever. And one of them goes, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" And he said, "Well, I was watching the weather. It's really bad there." And I said, "Yeah, it was really bad."
Tell me
Well, they
about it.
had tornadoes. I said, "Well, I didn't see any tornadoes, but
Oh,
it was bad."
you were conscious of holding on to your tent. You weren't looking outside. Oh, wow. How did that fear or that face of death compare to the battlefield in combat?
Oh, that's an excellent awareness that you have there. I Whenever I fell every day, I broke 4 poles. I was in a lot of pain all the time, and then I would fall and I go, "Get up! Nobody's shooting at you." You know, I was very conscious of that. Whenever it got to the point where, because in combat is horrible. I mean, you can't even describe it, right?
Yeah.
And when veterans get together, we didn't even talk about it amongst ourselves. A lot of people don't realize that. When I came back from Vietnam, my dad was a Mustang pilot in World War II, and all my uncles fought. One of them on D-Day, another one was a gunner on a B-24. And when he had his 50 missions, the next week, the next crew, that plane went down and they were all killed. So there's a whole history in my family of warriors, but they never
Well,
talked about it. And when I came back from Vietnam, I started to tell my dad a little bit about one thing, and he's like, "Don't ever talk about it. Just suck it up. Put it in the back of your brain. Forget about it. It's over. I don't want it." And then I'm start like protesting. He's hitting me over the head with a newspaper like I'm 12 years old. I'm a combat Marine. I just got home from Vietnam. I'm 20 years old. What the hell, Dad?
I thought I was out of combat.
It didn't seem real funny at the time, but you know what? I did that.
Well, that's the rule.
Yep.
Wow, this is so fascinating. And it's time to take a little break. So if you want to know more, obviously, hopefully you have been intrigued to go get this book of all these 500 images and see the rest of the story. But we're going to take a break and be right back with our fabulous guest today, Rand Timmerman. Hey there! Isn't my guest amazing? So glad you joined us today. In this world that often feels disconnected, building community and fostering belonging are essential. That's why I created this podcast, to bring inspiring people to you, to encourage you to create that sense of belonging and community, no matter where you are. If you're being blessed by my guest, and we have some more, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. You know who needs to hear this. Stay connected, stay true to yourself, And always remember, you belong. Now, back to our amazing guest. And we are back with my fabulous guest, Rand Timmerman. And if you've ever listened to one of these episodes, and even if you haven't, on the second half, I have 3 favorite questions that I like to ask my guests. And the first one is, what do you consider is your greatest accomplishment? Go for it.
Well, two. One is, believe it or not, I had a great law career and I was a litigator. I had some really good experiences doing that, helping people, getting paid for it. I mean, but the hardest one for me was probably getting sober, to be very blunt about it. Most people don't realize, but alcoholics, it's considered a disease. In 1956, the AMA, the American Medical Association, defined alcoholism as a disease because they knew that people who had this disease could not stop drinking it. It was extremely difficult. And today we know that we metabolize alcohol differently than normal people. We create excessive acetone, and that's what causes that overwhelming. I would be on a 3 or 4 day bender. I would be as thirsty or more at the end than I was in the beginning, and I couldn't possibly hardly drink anymore. It was impossible, and end up in the hospital and stuff like that. So that was extremely difficult for me. And then the second one would be the hiking the Appalachian Trail, but that was also very rewarding too. It was an amazing experience. And then, I ended up taking all those pictures, and then I decided, well, this is pretty amazing. I think I'll make something that our family and our kids and grandkids and great grandkids that Ronnie had so many of and has.
Right.
And so I did that. And then eventually I got hooked up with a publisher, Wildebeest Publishing, and we did it, professionally, so to speak. Although the actual this book is actually pretty much the same as the first one. That the text is mostly the same, the pictures are all the same. So and in doing that, I realized there was more, we're talking about the title and what the title should be. I realized it was really an amazing, I could never have done that if I hadn't gotten sober. So I used the opportunity in the book to describe how that happened because I did not, the first 3.5 years I was in this program, I was not going to do the God thing. Thank you very much. That guy, if there is one, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. That was my attitude, right? A little bit of an ego there, a little bit of an attitude. And then at the end, I'm like, you got to do something different. And God put me in the arms of a guy by the name of Billy Cook. He's gone now, so I can say his name. And Billy had helped a lot of men in his 30 years sobriety, and he took me through the deal, and it was amazing. So, we have these rungs or steps that we do in this program. There's 12 of them, and it's an anonymous program, so I have to be a little careful, but it's for alcoholics. And it was amazing because he changed my whole attitude about spiritual matters, and I ended up believing in a power greater than myself that got me sober and keeps me that way today. And I communicate with him every day. So I decided to put that in the book. So every second or third chapter it talks about how I did each of the steps in the program and what happened. And some of it's ugly, some of it's funny. It's got everything in there.
Well, it sounds like it's a reflection of life.
True.
Because some of life is funny, some of life is tragic, some of life is just, wow, amazing.
Right.
So the book is chapters at actual text, and then it's got pictures in it, or is it more of a picture book?
Okay, that's a great question. So the book, it's my brother and I both wrote journals. Ronnie wrote very precise. We were here, we were at this elevation, we walked, this many hours, we went this many feet, and this is where we ended up. And I love my family, and I wrote about all the trail names and the funny things that happened, and I took a lot of pictures. So when I did the book, it starts out where we went every day, you know what it looked like, because there's 4 or 5 pictures of it that I had taken every day, and then where we ended up. And then in between the other chapters, it's broken up with me talking about my program, some of Ronnie's spiritualities. We both had PTSD from the war. There was no treatment for us guys when we came back. All the guys I served with are dead. They're all dead. They either alcohol directly or indirectly. And so we came from a really
You were a
tough.
brave generation.
Yeah, well, there was many before us, but
Right.
and we've learned. I think, I got involved. The first time I went to VA, I was 65 years old and I was in handcuffs, and they were taking me to the psych ward because I was drunk and wanted to kill myself.
Oh, no, that sounds like, yeah,
That's pretty serious stuff.
that's serious stuff.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, if you haven't been there, you have no idea what it does to you to be
that's
in
right.
that or how to deal with it.
Yeah,
And a desk job is not going to really help somebody.
no,
It's fabulous that you're able to help people now on the journey that you went on
right,
because you know
right,
what it's like and you've been there, done
right.
that.
Yeah. The
Don't
other interesting too, the first time I drank at 13, I knew I liked it way too much. I mean, it was,
13, tell me about that. You snuck in and
oh my God. So my brother and I, well, our family is dirt poor in a little village with more cows than people, and everybody's poor pretty much. And all the boys go to school, they got manure on their boots, and that was the environment. And then we were the lowest of the low because, like we were very poor. And I went to bed hungry pretty much every night, right?
so
And
you liked army food. I mean military food.
I did. It was like my French Foreign Legion. I'm getting out of Dodge. Let
Wow,
somebody.
this food is so good.
Yeah. So uh, when I finally did get sober, a young guy asked me, and this is in the book too. A young guy asked me, he said, "Will you be my," we call them sponsors or mentors or whatever? My brain's, yeah, you're not ready. I'd only been sober for a little over a year, right? So I told him, come back tomorrow and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Billy
go
always did
back to
that.
when you were 13. How'd you find it? What'd you do?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I lost my truck. We went to a party. I had never been invited. So here I am. I'm 13 years old. I'm 5'6". I weigh 90 pounds. I got acne. I got clothes that are covered with patches. I got shoes with holes in the bottom of them. And I feel like I don't belong anywhere, right?
Right.
And I found a bottle of Jim Beam hidden away in the basement of this house. Me and another kid drank it. And I swear he weighed 200 pounds. And I thought I became Clint Eastwood. This is when Clint Eastwood. I mean, I'm 6'5". I'm the most handsome, debonair, sexiest. I'm just perfect. And I crawled home, but I still had that. The next day, I decided I better tell my dad what happened because he was going to find out. I was pretty sure. So I go up and tell him what happened, and he looks at me and he goes, "Well, whatever you do, don't do that again." Of course, I couldn't wait, and David's in the hospital,
Oh,
the other boy, and he died of cirrhosis of the liver about 25 years ago. I'm not saying he was an alcoholic, but um, yeah. So it was, and I knew that it was going to be a problem at 13. I made a decision. I'm never going to do drugs, and I never did. I never did marijuana. I didn't because I knew, well, for many, many years, it was not a problem. I could control it. I drank a little bit too much once in a while, but by the time I got into my 60s, the kids are all grown, gone up. My career is, been great, and I'm thinking about retirement. And man, I lost myself, and it became my higher power. And I couldn't get. It was like it was like my best friend, right? And then when I was a young man, he lived like 3 counties over, come over once in a while and and then he moved into town. Next thing I know, we're getting together every weekend and it's getting crazy. And then he moves in and now he's controlling every aspect of my life. And I just want to die. It went that way
wow.
at the end. Yeah. So, but God had a different plan for me. That's all I can say.
And we're glad he did.
Yes, ma'am. So,
All
yeah,
right. Well, that is um I'm glad God brought you to that accomplishment because that is a big accomplishment, a great
right.
accomplishment. So, the next question, what makes you feel like you belong?
I know I belong in this recovery program. I know that God wanted me to do certain things to help other people. We have a saying, one of our sayings or quotes, whatever you want to say, is that in order to keep it, you have to give it all away.
Mm.
So, I give it all away by sharing my bad experience. When I went to Billy and said, this kid asked me to be his sponsor, and I'm in my head, I am positive he's going to say, you're not ready. You only got like a year. Who the heck do you think you are? He goes, no, good. That's great, Rand. Go for it. And I go, Billy, I'm not ready. And he says, oh, you're ready. You got a lot of bad experience.
Oh, thank you.
And now you got a lot of good experience. And I've been working with usually two or three guys all the time since then. You know, Billy knew that if I started helping other men, I was the kind of guy that would probably stay sober.
Because that's the best way to help them.
Right.
And if you're doing it for somebody else,
That's right.
you don't want to let the somebody else down.
That's right. Exactly.
So that's very wise, Billy. Way to go, Billy. Good
He
job.
was. He was a great man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. When we feel like we can valuably contribute, that is part of the belonging. The language of action is not just other people doing actions that help us feel like we belong, but the ability for us to be able to do actions that help other people.
Right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I get up every morning at 4 o'clock. I do prayer and meditation. I do calisthenics. I go walk 3 miles before daylight usually. Then I go to the meeting. I hang out with guys before the meeting. We do some book work, step work, and then I go to the meeting. And then usually I do some more with another guy after that. And, you know, I'm 80 years old. I'm still walking 6, 7 miles every day.
When
And I'm
did you
filled
have
with
time to
joy.
get?
Yeah.
When did you have time to start drinking?
I don't have any desire to. It was taken away.
That is amazing. Yeah. Well, okay. Nobody has any excuses. You're how old? 80.
80. Yeah, I'll be 80 January 1 next year.
You go, boy, with your bad self. You have been around.
I have, yeah.
And my third question is, what is your favorite quote?
Well, one day at a time, one step at a time. I think we can do anything. Uh, God can do for us what we cannot do for ourselves.
Well, that's a good
Get
one.
in the boat, let God steer the rudder. You got to row. We got to do the work, you
That's
know.
good too.
Stop driving the bus, Rand. Get in the back of the bus. Let God drive the bus. Enjoy the ride. Some of those are some of my favorite quotes.
Jesus, take the wheel.
There you go.
Sometimes I think God needs to put me in the trunk.
Yeah.
Okay, I got this. Get in the trunk. uh, it is something that is helpful to learn early, but yay, praise God, he doesn't wait forever. At whatever age, he can help us learn that. But
Right.
it's not like you can't do it. I'm going to do it. It's like, wait, you don't know all that goes into this. I know the I know the trail. I know where you need to go. I know where the rattlesnakes are. Why don't you let me help you along the way, even though you're
Right.
taking the steps?
Yeah. See,
Excellent.
God was with me the whole time. I
Well,
didn't,
sure.
you know, he was with me that time we went out on a mission and we knew it was going to be bad and it was really bad. And we ran out of ammo and there was no air support and there was no nothing. And I had to use my bayonet and I ran. And I should never have survived that. So God was there all the time. I thought I was doing all this stuff. No,
Wow. Well, I have heard that there are no atheists in foxholes.
that was not my experience. Uh,
Oh,
some guys, yes. I did, you know, you never know. That's an interesting point you're making there. You never know. One of the reasons I went in the Marine Corps, I wanted to be challenged. I just wanted, you know, I had that Boy Scout service, honor,
right.
you know, pride, country, love of country. I had that deep, but I had no idea what it was going to be like. You don't know. And then for me, when it got bad, I always got extreme. I had no idea how much rage and anger I had in me because the whole idea that somebody was trying to kill me is like, no. And
Not this
most of
guy,
it,
not today.
yeah. And then you see men dying and praying to God, you know, or a lot of times they're crying, mommy, mommy, mommy. Or they're praying to, you know, get me out of this. And I'm like, that's not going to work. See, that's where my atheism really took off on me. I was convinced there was no God, but it was actually the opposite. He was working in my life to save me. I so I would be able to do some things later on. I had no idea. I had no idea.
Well, he created you for specific works and gave you the abilities and the gifts and talents and the experiences to accomplish those works because they were tailor-made for you, and he tailor-made you for the work he has for you.
Yep, turned out that way.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
what it is for.
And I don't fear death anymore.
Well,
I don't.
no.
I'm hoping that be a while. Because I got some more books.
Don't we all?
But I'm not in charge.
But you're ready. You're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's not. I have a feeling he's not finished with you yet.
I don't think so either. Right.
Well, this has been fabulous. But before we close, do you have any parting words for our listeners? Any takeaways you want them to hang on to?
Yes, these are very difficult times we live in now. Today, the world is very complicated. But for all those people that are struggling, I hope that they can see a book like mine and I'm trying to be an example of you don't have to sit on the couch and worry about I'm going to die. A lot of my friends are dead or they're sitting on the couch waiting they don't do the thing one step at a time. And on the other hand, I know an old lady, no offense to any, but she's in her 80s and a walker and an oxygen bottle, and she gets off her couch and she goes out and she goes to do things and she goes to the fairs and she's got a big grin, or she comes to Family Matters and she's really happy to be there and smiling at everybody. And so, we can be inspired by people who do things that are kind of hard, that are painful, and still do it with joy and with vibrancy and, like you said, action, right? Those are the people I want to try to inspire people to be that way and not the other way.
As long as you're alive, be alive.
Absolutely. That's perfect.
I gotta write that down and remember.
That's
As long as you're alive, be alive.
right.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, to our amazing guest, thank you, Rand. It's been a pleasure. And to our listeners, belongers, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember you belong. This is Dia Irby with Here Where You Belong podcast, signing off. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in to Here Where You Belong. We hope today's episode has inspired you to embrace the beauty of belonging in your own life. Remember, no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. Join us again next time for more insightful conversations and heartwarming stories. Until then, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember that you belong.